Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amog Umbarkar. I have here with me also Balaji Krishna, my colleague, and as we are set in a movie theater, we'll walk you through a movie of SAP's data management journey. Also, how we are trying to bring best of both worlds from SAP and Google in an offering to you. So brief agenda, how we are going to walk you through in terms of what do we see from the enterprise data landscapes, what is SAP Data Hub, the product that we are going to walk you through, how we are working and collaborating with Google Cloud, and a few customer examples. And of course, we want to keep it interactive or also have questions from you guys. So let's go through. As you can see, here is a kind of evolution in terms of the enterprise intelligence on one axis as towards the data diversity on the other one. You all know that we have seen more OLTP as a start where the transaction processing was the first step into the enterprise world. We as SAP started our journey also from there onwards. Then we saw a push and move towards enterprise BI or reporting, and that's when the OLAP world came into being. And as we are moving more and more towards heterogeneous landscapes and more diverse data, we are seeing a multifaceted data management requirement. We are seeing also technologies like machine learning, AI, IoT being used as well. And that is where it becomes now more and more interesting how we can address all these kind of data management challenges also in the future. Just to bring a little context as to why and how data is changing the world. Here is an example where last year judge gave a ruling in Ohio that the data from a pacemaker could be used against an investigation for fire insurance investigation. You all might have seen that, how one father had reached out to the marketing team from Target when they were sending some commercials related to pregnancy, and later he found out that they were actually not wrong. Their predictions were true, and they knew more or had more data points on his household. In terms of movies, we have seen that the data science teams have been collecting more and more data, just like in this kind of a setup when it gets exciting or when it is scary, and try to see that which scenes are creating what effect and bring that into action for their next productions. Also from Spotify, we have seen that they are using it to bring out more ad business. We have seen also that after Brexit, they sent out these kind of ads, and it's end of the world kind of a thing, or what you see on screen about Valentine's Day. And of course, in Japan, the a land where there are a lot of earthquakes, we have seen as well that even apps on the iPhone are being used to gather data and then try to predict as to what can be done or what is the kind of intensity that is happening. But now coming towards a little bit in terms of the corporate world as well, what we are seeing is a picture like this. There are a lot of silos, data is separated, and what we see also is with mergers and acquisition scenarios coming in, it adds to another challenge. And further it up now with the kind of open source world or big data and Hadoop scenarios, it adds a further complexity to this. And it becomes really a big challenge for the teams to see that how they can avoid duplication of data, how they can avoid unnecessary movement of data, and go through bringing all these silos together for a single version of truth. What we are seeing is also an explosion. Just to give you a context, in the last 5,000 years, the amount of data that was created which we already exceeded in the last 2016, 2017 years. And it's predicted by 2025 it will become humongous. It is expected to be 163 zettabytes of data. So manually actually analyzing this data is simply out of the question. That's where we want to automate as much as possible and bring value from the data to make sense and have intelligent insights. So when this volume of data comes in, understanding that data or finding patterns and so on is also equally important. What you see on screen here is, some picture where you can add context, you can add some water, and you can see that maybe it's a seagull when you build some context around that data and add some meaning to that. But at the same time, if you add a different context, then you are able to see a different picture and bring out a different meaning from that. Of course, a skilled veterinarian can differentiate between this, and that is the kind of job the data management, data governance, data science kind of roles are today facing. And with this, what we tried to do from SAP side is we got feedback from some of the customers as well as from some analysts. And with the study also from KPMG, we realized that there are at least top 5 principles if you think from data side. There is data visibility. Almost 3/4 of the customers said that, yes, this is definitely complex and that limits their agility. Data quality is a big concern. Most of the CEOs are saying that, okay, this is where we are basing our decisions on. And for innovation, they are saying that they are not getting most out of the data. Also, in terms of if you ask them that are you knowing how much data is relevant for your decisions? They're not even able to give rough percentages. This is a big problem that we sense and where we could bring out some offerings. TCO is a factor. Compliance, we had GDPR coming in Europe. We have Californication. So all these things will definitely shape up in terms of the challenges for our customers. That's where SAP came out with a different kind of a thought process. And we wanted to now see how we can address all these challenges together. How can we build a kind of 360 view to give them a view across their enterprise data, which means that it can be enterprise, also the open source world. How can we seamlessly integrate data quality capabilities in there? How can we give them also all the tools that are available today to drive their innovation initiatives in a very agile manner? At the same time, we wanted to avoid the data redundancy. We wanted to avoid the high cost of data. So we wanted to optimize that by decentralized data processing as well. And of course, in the end, to give them the confidence and get them to be compliant with their data sets. So what SAP has come out with its new offering, we launched late last year, SAP Data Hub. We are trying to help our customers become more and more data-driven. What you see here on the left-hand side is the SAP world with SAP HANA as the core of the digital platform. And we have on the other side the open source world. We are trying to help now everyone right from data discovery in terms of metadata governance with the orchestration, with very kind of agile data pipelining capabilities. You will see it in also in demo later. And at the same time, we are trying to expand the reach into the connectivity and also get out the reach into the cloud infrastructure providers. Google is a very close partner, so we are working with Google Cloud team as well. In terms of a architecture view, here is what you see. We are on the layer below addressing all the data storages. It can be on-premise, it can be in a Hadoop store, it can be in a raw store, it can be in a cloud store as well. And on top of that, you will have the runtime from SAP Data Hub. That is where we are also using Kubernetes. You heard a lot from Diane Green today about Kubernetes, and Sundar as well, to see how we are then seamlessly integrating that to give you the means to have that elasticity as well. And then we are trying to connect it into also all the SAP applications as we go on, as well as we are giving you REST APIs to connect in if you want to connect to any other application as well. On top, then you are seeing how we are trying to bring in capabilities towards metadata cataloging, towards data discovery, how we can have a one-stop shop to also monitor, schedule, and get all the landscape administration. And you will see also in the demo how easily you can bring and build data pipelines and define how and where the data should flow. In terms of example with the flow-based big data management, here is how you can see there can be multiple sources. When comes in the heterogeneity, you can have data which is raw data, but it is now increasingly becoming important for your enterprise decisions. You can bring in that stream data in, you can combine it with your master data, you can have your data provisioning done in a distributed environment. And to do all this, you're starting from ingestion or collection of the data, then you want to refine that data, bring in the structure, especially for the raw data, make a model, and then bring it out for consumption. And then when you deploy that, you can automate that, you can reuse that. It's very easy to get in there. And without further ado, I would like to then bring in Balaji, who can talk a little bit in terms of also what we are doing in the hybrid cloud and walk you through a demo.
Thank you, Amok. Just want to make sure, okay, perfect. I just want to make sure the mic is on. So continuing from where Amok left off, we're seeing this rise of hybrid cloud. Obviously, when you heard the keynote this morning, like one of the speakers was mentioning, 8 out of 10 customers still look at a multi-cloud and a hybrid environment where a lot of assets are on-prem, but they're gradually migrating over to the cloud. And we see this happening across different cloud environments, primarily GCP and Google being one of the main partners for SAP in this journey. And as part of this journey, what we've realized is the main advantage for a lot of customers when migrating to the cloud is how easily they can migrate the workloads without having to worry about the whole DevOps aspect of it. So it's moving from a DevOps to a no operational kind of experience. And that's what is enabling a lot of our customers, and SAP is a company which has been in the service for around 46 years. So we have a lot of customers who still have on-prem, but we see that there is a gradual migration from our existing customer base to a cloud kind of environment. Obviously, a lot of new customers that we are getting are primarily cloud only, but there are a lot of on-prem customers, and for them, we provide this choice, especially when trying to manage their data more efficiently when the data is spread across cloud, on-prem, and multi-cloud environments. And what we try to provide is this capability of best of both worlds, because again, putting the emphasis on, hey, I still have my ERP system, which I'm in the process of upgrading, migrating from ECC system, SAP ERP system, to S4 Cloud, which is our digital core. But in the interim, I want to be able to bring in the data that is on-prem and also combine with other applications which are running on the cloud, whether it is SAP Concur or SAP SuccessFactors, which is cloud-native applications that SAP has. So how do I bring in the data which is sitting in all these different layers and make some sense out of it, make insights? And that's where Data Hub provides this capability on how we can leverage Data Hub to build these pipelines, and beyond that, also talk to big data systems or data lakes, where when you're doing something like a data lineage or impact analysis, it's not enough if you're just looking at your traditional relational data, which is primarily data at rest, but you also want to look at the data in motion, which could be data coming from IoT stream, it could be coming from weblogs, it could be social media data. So how do I bring that lineage across my different artifacts, starting from a BI dashboard or an analytics report that I'm looking at, and try to point that to a source of origin, which could be, hey, this data came from a SAP ERP system, but now it is residing in a HDFS file as a Parquet format. So it's very important for us to combine these two worlds, which is the on-prem and the cloud, and especially when we talk about these multi-cloud environments, and support different kinds of workloads. Like I said, it could be the IoT streaming workloads, or it could be advanced analytics, which is now migrated to the whole machine learning AI kind of workloads. And finally, basic cloud storage, where I'm looking at a data aging, data tiering strategy, where I want to push my cold data into a cloud or a frozen state. So how do I ensure that I build a pipeline which can also bring in the data from a frozen state, combine that with hot data, in-memory data that we have in SAP HANA, which is our central core of the digital platform. So we have collaborated with Google on multiple aspects, but one of the primary things here is how do we leverage GKE, primarily the Kubernetes engine, but beyond that GKE. And that's where we have a lot of customers who are running Kubernetes on-prem, whether it's through support from Red Hat or SUSE, but it was interesting to hear this morning at the keynote that now we'll have GKE on-prem as well. So a lot of our customers are going to be excited because they're already on the journey to using GKE. And for us, we've been working with Kubernetes for almost 2 years now, and even before the 0.1 release was made available. So we've gone through the ups and downs, and it's interesting to see the adoption in terms of how Kubernetes is being adopted, not just across the customers, but also across other partner landscapes. So for us, it's important that we ensure that this Kubernetes allows us to build more and more as we deliver Data Hub as a service in the future, where today it's available as an infrastructure as a service, but we are looking at a managed service where you can come in and you can buy the compute hours, and you just need this compute to build a pipeline which does the cleansing and refinery task for a data scientist, for them to run their data scientist workloads. And as you've heard in the several talks, especially when we talk about ML and AI and data science, almost 70% of those tasks are related to, I want to ensure that I've cleaned the data, I've cleansed the data, I have the right kind of data before I can actually hand it over to my data scientists. So data scientists are also working as data engineers. And with a tool like Data Hub, we simplify that capability for a data scientist, for him or her to go in and build those specific data scientist workflows, which is one of the use cases Amog is going to be talking about in the future in one of the next slides. I also want to bring out this partnership that we're doing with Google and Cisco, and I think you heard some of these again at the keynote. SAP has been working as one of these triangular partners in this initiative for almost a year now, and it's great to see that we already have our first version of the customers who are looking at this, and they're already gaining a lot of benefits in terms of enabling GKE along with Google Cloud as a hybrid cloud running on Cisco platform. So this is really great for us to share this information with our customers in terms of Data Hub being one of the first applications from SAP which is able to take advantage of this partnership between Cisco and Google. And finally, before I go to the demo, I just want to kind of set the stage for the demo that we're going to be talking about today. Primarily, this is, again, a collaboration for one of our customers that we did between Google and SAP, where we are taking in the data from point of sales information. So we have point of sales data that is being streamed in through Google Cloud Platform, specifically PubSub. The output of that Google PubSub is being returned into a Google BigQuery. And again, this pipeline is being managed using Data Hub. And the Google BigQuery data is being consumed in SAP HANA as a data virtualization layer. This is where we talk about HANA as being that broader information fabric or in-memory fabric or the logical data warehouse, where what we are enabling from Data Hub is leave your data wherever it is, whether it's in your Google cluster or your on-prem. We allow you to do the push downs to wherever the data is, so that you do the heavy lifting where the data is, and then we bring it, do the joins that are required before we can make that available for visualization through your favorite BI tool or dashboarding tool. So let me switch to the demo before I can hand it over to Amok for the use cases. So what you're seeing here, before that, actually I wanted to show the BigQuery demo first before we go into. So what we are seeing here is a big data analytics demo partnership between Data Hub and BigQuery. So as I mentioned earlier, we are streaming data from point of sales across the different retail stores in US. And this data is being streamed through a pub sub. And Data Hub is used as a configuration management for connecting this pub sub and for streaming the data. Oh, you're not able to see it? No. Oh. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you, Amok. I think we should be good. Yeah. Okay. So this is the architecture diagram that I showed earlier, and primarily what we are doing here is we are leveraging Data Hub, and this is the Data Hub pipeline modeler. So here what you see is I'm reading the data from Google storage, and I'm streaming the data into a Google pub sub, and the output of that pub sub is being consumed into a Google BigQuery, which in turn is being accessed through a HANA calculation view. So for folks who are familiar with SAP HANA and the HANA data modeling, you're familiar with calculation views. So we consume this data as part of a calc view and then expose that through a visualization using SAP Analytics Cloud. So here I'm looking at the configuration for my file. So here I'm using a CSV file, and the CSV file is in a root path SAP Data Hub. Now I switch to my Google GCS, and I'm just pointing to the location where I have my source file that I'll be using for this demo exercise. And as the next step, I'm going to point to the Google pub sub and the sink where I have mentioned the information. So the topic where I'm capturing this information in the Google pub sub. So as data is being streamed in through this, now I can go in and capture the data. So I also have this terminal. So what you see here is a terminal where I can capture the data that's coming in. So the data that's being streamed through the point of sale devices is being streamed here, and within Data Hub, I can add a terminal window to actually see what data is being streamed. So the idea here is not to really read through that stream, but we're just showing you how you can also look at the actual data being streamed in. And we also have an integration with Strack driver from GCP to analyze the monitoring of this information. So how much data is being streamed in at specific intervals of time. So if I switch to the pipeline, primarily here, I'm looking at what data is being streamed in, and then where I'm being able to capture that into Google BigQuery. So let me move that. So now that I have the data being streamed in, I'm looking at Google BigQuery, and I'm looking at the data that's being streamed in real time here. So I'm just running a query to show that the number of rows are increasing. So it was around 8,000 earlier, and now it's at 16,840. So this is primarily showing that I am streaming this data from Google Pub Sub, built this pipeline using Data Hub. And then in the next step, I'm going to be consuming this as part of a HANA calculation view, where I consume this Google BigQuery as a virtual table and then make that available through SAP HANA Smart Data Access. So this is where I'm using the Google BigQuery table. I'm consuming that as a virtual table using that logical data warehousing concept. and then make that available for my BI analysis through HANA calculation views. In the next step, I'm doing some visualization. I'm not going to talk too much about the visualization, because once you've done the heavy lifting in terms of building that pipeline, which is where the meat of the work happens, which is where a data engineer comes in and has to do the different parts in terms of configuring my different sources, in this case being Google PubSub, and then making that data available through Google BigQuery, and finally expose that into a HANA table. If we have time, I can do the other demo. We have 24 minutes, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
So let me switch to the other demo, where I can show a few more screens of SAP Data Hub and its capabilities. Right, so what you see here is the Data Hub cockpit. This is kind of the UI for an administrator, where he or she comes in and sets up the landscape. So in terms of the landscape, I want to create different systems. I want to set up these zones where I can categorize the different systems. So I'm providing a connection here to my HANA system, or it could be to my ERP system or a Hadoop system. I have the options of setting up the systems depending on the source systems that I have to connect to. So here you see a list of the different systems I've connected to. And then as next step, I can go in there and I can browse through the different data points that we have. So in my case, I'm going to go through a data discovery exercise. So here I have the option of browsing through my Hadoop connections. So I can browse through a HDFS folder, and I can look at the different files in there, Parquet files, ORC files, CSV files, or if I want to connect through a GCP or any cloud storage, I have the same option. In this exercise, I'm just going to go through a HANA system, and I'm going to browse through a HANA view that I'm going to then run through a data profiling task. So I have information here for the sales order. So now I'm in the data discovery or data profiling space, where I'm looking at the data that I have. So this is just a sample data, and this is where the data wrangling part kind of kicks in. So you want to get introduced to, hey, now I want to do a data wrangling kind of exercise. Before that, I want to understand the spread of the data. So I want to look at the profiling information in the fact sheet, where I can see what are the different values of the data, what is the spread of data, say, in terms of what are the distinct values. So here I go to the fact sheet and I can look at the different data points. So I have information about this has around 1.9 million unique sales information, around 20,000 customers, 5,000 products in terms of the master data for my customer and products who purchased this specific product, and I have the data for 3 years. Depending on the data points that you have, or depending on the source, for example, if it is a Parquet file, obviously you'll have a much larger data set, and in a lot of our customers, they want to store the cold data in a Hadoop system or a data lake system. So the profiling task for a Hadoop system or even for a cloud system can be enabled, similar to what you're seeing here from a HANA table. Now I enter into the pipeline modeler. So the idea here is, as a data engineer or a data modeler or even a data scientist, you want to understand the data a little bit before you can really play around with the data. So if you are a data scientist, you're using the Jupyter notebooks or IPython notebooks. In our case, we provide this Data Hub tool, where you have a UI-enabled way of dragging and dropping information and trying to build your pipelines. So here you're looking at a pipeline where we've used the data that we got from the sales order table, and we're running some predictive algorithms. In this case, we're going to be using Python initially, and in the next phase, we're going to be using R. So we'll show you how you can very easily modify your predictive algorithms to suit whatever you're comfortable with. So if you are a TensorFlow customer, you can just rip and replace a Python algorithm with a TensorFlow algorithm, and you can enable the prediction. So we have two tasks here. One is training the algorithm, and the other one is the serving part. And now I'm showing you how we build the training algorithm using Python. So I'm opening up my SQL generator, which is where I'm getting the data from my HANA system, so the sales order table that you just saw. I'm going to bring in that data, and I'm going to convert that to a CSV format so that I can feed that to my Python model so that it can take the data and then do analysis on that Python model. So we leverage some of the open source libraries like Pandas and Lifetime. So again, I can bring in any external algorithm, I can make that available as part of my pipeline and leverage the insights that I get out of that. So what you're seeing here is this is called a graph or a pipeline within Data Hub, and each of those blocks are the operators. So we deliver around 200 plus operators to do different tasks, whether it's you want to anonymize the data in flight, you want to do data cleansing, you want to do geocoding, reverse geocoding, you want to enable location intelligence on top of that, or you as a partner want to build your own operator. We provide all those capabilities as part of Data Hub and extend that even to machine learning and AI as well. So I'm just showing some open source libraries that I'm importing from Pandas. This is the Python library that we've written for doing the predictive analysis based on the sales orders data. So just switching through the demo. So what I have here is when I execute this, I'm training this model. So there is first the training phase, which I'm doing, and then once I've trained it, I'm going to serve the model so that I can apply this model on new data that's coming in or real-time data that's coming in to be able to get a prediction out of that real-time data. So let me quickly move through this. So basically what you're seeing here is right now I have the train model or the serving model. So I've used the Python serve model here, and I'm going to be loading the data that I got from my trained ML model. I'm going to feed that through this prediction Python and then get a prediction. So based on the inputs that you provide for this prediction, you'll be able to get a prediction from that model saying, depending on the customer and their buying pattern, if I provide the number of days, there is a high probability that the customer is going to buy another similar product. So here I'm picking up the customer ID, customer information, and the product, and then I specify the day. And based on the number of days, it's going to tell me what's the probability that the customer might buy a product. So this is again based on the historic information about what this customer has bought. There's a certain level of recommendation capabilities as well. So when I punch in 50 days, there's a 1.51 times probability. When I punch in 500 days, there's a 14 times probability that the customer might buy this product. So now I switch from using a Python algorithm to R algorithm. So we'll show you how easy it is. So we've already created a graph. So what we do is first we copy this pipeline. So I already have a pipeline. So this is the whole reusability part of how a developer can reuse pipelines that are already existing in your repository. So I'm just going to call this with a different name. I'm going to call it train for R. And then I go in, I remove this. So I'm just literally going to delete that operator, and I'm going to drag and drop R operator. So obviously, depending on, and like you see there on the left side, it could be a TensorFlow operator as well. So here I'm looking at the code from R standpoint. So this is a custom code that I've written for R. And then I just have to connect my operator to the input data feed that I'm getting. And then I'll be ready to train this graph using the new R operator, R code that I just inserted into this pipeline. So I just have to make some changes in terms of what the model name is. I'll go through that. It's a similar exercise as we did in the previous time. Uh, Now I'm running the train model. Once I complete this, in the next step, I'm going to bring in the serve model. So I'm going to do the same thing. So here I have the Python-based serve model. I'm just going to save it as a different name. And then literally drop that operator, add a R operator, and then use that for serving this graph so that you can see the prediction difference. And this is something that data scientists would always want to do because there's always something new coming in from the different libraries. So you want to ensure that you can get as close to the prediction to real time. Right, so I'm just going to drop that. I'm bringing in the R serve model. And then I'm going to connect to the model that I created using my R train. Okay. And the same prediction now. So I switch from 50 days to 500 days, and you see in the previous one it was 14 times probability, now it's 17 times probability. So you as a data scientist, you have some tools that you can play around with in terms of this is your favorite algorithm, so you can do some kind of analysis based on that. So I just wanted to show a live system so that you guys don't think like we're just showing you some recorded demo. So again, what you're seeing here is the Data Hub homepage. So this is the latest version of the homepage, which will be available for customers end of this week, I think. So this is the new version. So we have multiple applications. So what you are seeing right now is the Vora modeler, which is what I have here, or the Data Hub modeler, which is the pipeline modeler. And we also introduce other things like metadata explorer. So one of the big things that we are seeing from a lot of customers, and again, there are several startups that are trying to solve this problem, the capability to provide metadata management, data cataloging, lineage impact analysis across the different disparate data sources. And again, it's not just limited to I have my data in my SAP systems, I can do lineage. No, talking about lineage all the way from your BI report, whether it is a Tableau dashboard or a SAP Analytics Cloud dashboard, all the way to the SAP ERP system. So those are things that we can do from a Data Hub standpoint. So we are bringing in multiple capabilities into a single tool so that you don't have to go look at different tools to do different things. And all these are available as part of Google Cloud Platform, and we have customers that Amog is going to be talking about in terms of the use cases. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to pass it back to Amog.
Can I bring in the presentation? Yeah, thank you, Balaji. I think one more thing, also our board member Bernd Leukert and Diane have also announced that we are able to sprout out in 30 minutes if you want to try out SAP Data Hub on Google Cloud Platform using Kubernetes. And thank you. Super. I'll just walk you briefly through a couple use cases. Just starting with one of the customers who has a parallel session right now, Tippy Financial. Here is how they are also bringing out the kind of benefits they see. Their goal was to have zero dissatisfied customers. They have seen a huge increase in efficiency and for their operations and delivery by 30 to 40%. This is where they were able to bring out their data-driven approach. We have been discussing a couple use cases with them as well. Also, they are working with the Google Cloud team. They are trying to set up a data science lab in there. They are having also on-prem HANA and Hadoop kind of a setup, and multiple use cases including customer satisfaction, how can they enrich the customer experience, or also try and bring out more and more customer churn scenarios, so that way they are able to predict what product from them is bringing out what impact. Uh, Another customer of ours is also able to use now machine learning as well as predictive analysis. We give a lot of operators, as you saw from the demos Balaji gave you. I think there are over 220 plus. As we go on, we are embracing everything that's available. And you can include then a seamless integration towards SAP BW for HANA as well. You can have different zones set up, one for data science, one towards data management or data engineers, and have that seamless flow and orchestration of data as you will. Of course, you want to see, Balaji already demonstrated how once the model is proven, you can easily bring that into production or industrialize that model. And then another nice story of a customer, we have seen all those smart appliances and connected world and so on. Here we saw a customer giving us a challenge. There were 6 million devices generating 16 terabytes of data per day. They had a first challenge. Their data science team, they were paying top dollar for that kind of data science team. And they ended up using 4 or 5 different tools. Now we shell out thousands of dollars for these. And their idea was to see that whatever features are coming out from that, they wanted to get a good production efficiency. They saw the usage of that. They were able to bring all that data in, but there were a lot of issues. There were 5 different tools. There was a lot of manual coding. There was no automation possible, and there was no end-to-end visibility. They did not know where the data was stuck or where it was not running onto a good model. With SAP Data Hub, what we changed, we refined complete end-to-end process using one single tool. We were able to give them a nice visual modeling environment. We also brought in governance. We understood their process and then helped them automate that. From one region, they were able to scale out into multiple regions as well. And we were completely helping them in the end-to-end orchestration and refining their data. So they were not only able to bring down that from the 10 features that were given out in this new appliance, whether only 3 of them were used, they pushed a campaign. And out of that came in use of 4 more. But then persistently, they saw that in all different regions, 3 were not being used, and they stopped the production of those because it was not being used. At the same time, they also were matching that data with the enterprise data in SAP. All these kind of raw streaming data came in together. If you or me are paying thousands of dollars for this, we want to see that it is not lying around for 3 to 4 months when a service vendor comes and gives service, right? So we were able to bring that data, mash it up with the customer information, with the vendor information, and based on the error code, they were able to proactively reach out to the service vendor in that area and said that please carry part ABC, and more than 85% of the times in one single visit, they were able to resolve the issues and had a very loyal customer. Another quick example is about how the fitness tracker data is there. Most of us are using wearable devices, and we were able to now stream data from there across the globe. We were able to bring in the sales figures. We were able to bring in what type of, for example, a jogging shoe or a running shoe was used by that consumer. And not only that, but when we refined all these, we were able to help them deliver insights. We were able to then bring this data towards an analytics dashboard and bring out with a model that based on the pattern or the jogging pattern of the consumer and the type of shoe they have, they were able to bring out much more upsell opportunities, more than 20% in some regions. So that way, they were able to increase their sales as well. In the end, very briefly, You heard also from our board member, Bernd Leukert, in the morning. Here is how SAP is trying to bring out more how simplified data management can be in the future together with SAP HANA. That is what is our SAP data management suite. Data Hub is one of the significant components in that. And as you have seen already, we are able to scale out into our partners like Google Cloud and also others. What we are also trying to deliver now in terms of our strategy is gear up all of you towards an intelligent enterprise. In the digital platform, of course, is driven through SAP HANA, and SAP Data Hub is then the core of the data management, where we are wanting to help you in all the multi-cloud environments and have that seamless flow of data, manage and give you a wonderful customer experience as well. And just a brief takeaway, if you will, how SAP Data Hub is then going to help you bring in a kind of consolidated view across all the sources of data, how it is going to help bring in intelligent discovery. As we move ahead, we will be able to help you also more and more with improvised data quality and cleansing. We will be able to help you with kind of enrichment of the data, how we can have distributed processing across this kind of hyperscale architectures, how we can help you with kind of scalable data ops management. As you move into the cloud, you heard as well in the keynote in the morning, that is where they want to automate more and more. And last but not the least, also get optimal and compliant data governance across the enterprise, even for the data that is now becoming more and more relevant, the unstructured one, how you can help get more grip over that. Here are some of the resources which are available for you. Please note the links, and of course, you can reach out to SAP as well through here, and we'll be happy to help you in that. Thank you very much. Please do not forget to also give feedback on the app, and we'll open up the round for any questions now. Thank you.